I'm Jeff Lorigan and I am the Director of the Institute for Strategic Leadership. I founded ISL 21 years ago, and today is about reflecting back on 21 years around sort of issues about why did I set up the Institute, how did I set it up and get it started, and perhaps reflecting on certain milestones along the way. How do I feel about that journey after 21 years down the track and looking back and reflecting on it? Yeah, I guess you're continuously on the go, and probably it's a good time to sit back and reflect. When I do reflect, I can see it's been an extremely long journey. It's been an exciting one. But yeah, when I started out, my granddaughter was a wee baby, and now she's a 23-year-old and partway through her third degree. So ISL, I guess, is a bit like her in some ways. You know, it's gone from a toddler to a teenager, and now is you know, a professional organisation in its very own right. So looking back, well beyond ISL, back to early days. So I guess there's around 4 different stages to my career. The first one was as a young food technologist working in the dairy industry. The second one was shifting from New Zealand to London to be the CEO of an organisation over there that imported half of New Zealand sheep meat and some wool and so on into Europe. Third one part of my career was being a professor of business and business strategy at the University of Otago and the University of Auckland, and an adjunct professor at Queensland University of Technology. And then from 2001, setting up ISL, and more recently Smart Leader Diagnostics. So yeah, I guess my whole life has been a bit on the run. It's been busy, and probably I've put my business before myself, and try as I might to make sure that my family didn't miss out on anything. There's no doubt about it that my career has always taken first place and still does, which has its upsides and positives. But if you do anything too much or too little is not good. Being somewhere in the middle is probably better. So perhaps I've been a little bit out of balance at times. Still am, really. Yeah. So I guess my work's always been my passion. It's never been, a job has never been a place just to go and get a salary, but it's not actually always been about seeking promotion either, but it's about, challenging myself, reaching for the sky, and trying to make things better and do it differently and be innovative. A life of innovation, I guess characterises what happened before ISL and what's happened during ISL. The career before I came to ISL was, at the time, the Director of Executive Programs. It's called the Advanced Business Program at the University of Otago. So executive programs for senior executives as well as the MBA program. So yeah, I was in an academic space at that time. And I guess it probably leads on to what made me leave the university and set up an institute. And I think the story there is that I had some amazingly great students. And the students I had weren't young undergraduates. They were people in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe even late 30s. They were smart cookies. They come from UK, America, different places, Sri Lanka, New Zealand, Australia. I was really impressed with them, but I had already had three or four CEO roles before I became in this academic position. And I guess I'd reflect at night and on the weekend about, how good would they be to work for me as a CEO? How would they add to the value of my organisation? And I guess I had a couple of realisations. One was that these were smart cookies, but they'd slice and dice a company with a whole lot of analytics and maybe disruptive in the process. The other thing, they were highly competitive. And I thought, having one of these around might be okay, but if you had a bunch of them, then it would, impact on the culture. The other third insight was that I was teaching strategy, and yeah, I was quite proud of the fact that University of Otago MBA program, and I had been the coach during the time I was there, had had a fantastic success internationally. It had been first, second, third and fourth over 7 years in the World Strategy Competition in Montreal. And so we knew a bit about, Otago knew a bit about, and I knew a little bit about, strategy. But it dawned on me that, over half of strategies fail on implementation, no matter how good they are. And the reason that they fail is really about the people factor. So I thought really teaching strategy without being mindful of the implementation is not so smart. So those different factors led me to think, leadership is the other side of the coin to strategy. And leadership impacts on employees, and employees impact on the customers, and customers impact on the revenue, and revenue impacts on the profitability of an organisation. So I came at it really from a business mind rather than a psychological human resource perspective. So that's what got me thinking about getting into, stretching my view into the leadership space. And then I thought, if you're going to impact on organisations, you need to start at the very top, because the people at the top are role models for good or bad, and they have a huge impact on the rest of the organisation. So there's no sense in getting started with, leadership for the lower levels or the middle levels. I'll start at the very top, which was hugely ambitious. But I guess, if you don't know how difficult it is, then you just get started. You don't imagine how difficult it might be how are you going to tap into the top management, the CEO and the top people in very large organisations. They're going to be thinking, who are you? And haven't done this before, and you've done strategy, but what makes you think you're a top leadership expert? And we're currently sending our people to Harvard or Stanford or Oxford, and why do you think you could do better, Jeff? That's the question I had to answer, to get started. I think the good thing about it is it's almost impossible to do, which means it's a barrier to entry for anyone else coming along, because people at the top want to stick to brands that are trusted, have been around for a while, and no one ever get fired for sending somebody to Harvard or using IBM.